this is the most difficult opening game since I've been here. We're playing an opponent who is as good or better than anybody we faced last year. They've got awful lot of people back on offense that were tremendously productive. They've coming off a streak where they've been winning once a week. And yet there's still some of the uncertainty going into an opponent that has a new head coach. Now I think they're going to leverage what they've done well in the past, but there's certainly going to be some differences. We prepare for that routinely because we're always going to face something maybe a little bit different than what we got from somebody last week, given the style of play. But that's, again, so we have the worst of both worlds. You have an opponent that's veteran and accomplished with a new leadership, a new style of play maybe in themselves. Although I think their offense will not change dramatically, that as productive as they've been and as veteran as they are. We're generally talking about guys who were in the wings last year. They were preparing to play. They did play. They're not rookies. And in some plays, on defense, on the other hand, we have some issues where we have some guys who we're really proud of. We think they're going to be really good football players, but frankly, they weren't in that role a year ago. We're going to lean on some guys that didn't play much last year, at least not with the A squad, and they didn't. And they were going through a plebe year. The guys we're talking about, most of the guys we're talking about on that offensive line, were preparing to play each week last year. They're now in their junior, senior year. They're physically mature. They're experienced with the system. Obviously, playing a lot of plays on Saturday is going to be a little bit new, and we're all going to have to go through that. But they're better positioned to take that on, and we can all have higher expectations for how that group will play. Well, we have a lot of respect for their defensive ends, but you can't avoid them. They're going to be in the way. Obviously, their quarterback is the center of the storm. He's not the whole storm, but he is obviously the center of the storm. The ball goes through his hands, and his legs are involved. And as I say, we don't want to get too zeroed in on a single player, but because, as I say, he does have a tremendous supporting cast out there and a veteran cast. But the ball goes through his hands. He's been in the shotgun, and they run a style of play that a lot of formations, a lot of motions and shifts. Mm-hmm. Add that with the tempo that they're talking about coming out in, and that they'll have well rehearsed. They've been doing it since the spring. But what I'm hearing is they're going to be they have a new coaching staff, they have new coordinators, but I think the system essentially has remained intact. So the zone read stuff, you see him doing some reads, but you also see some things designed for him where he runs the football. So they're design runs, but you've got to defend more than just his legs. You've got to defend the running backs. You've got to defend the receivers, and then you've got to defend the quarterback. Because, as I say, he rushed for over 700 yards last year. He's a real threat with the football, and with a veteran group up front I don't think they're asking them to do anything they haven't done before, and that would be my guess, and that's what we prepared for. We've tried to look at what they've done in the past. We look at what these guys are good at. We prepared as best we can, and now we bend our knees and adjust as we get started.